kind of came up with the 3 C's because that's what we do in education. We come up with like acronyms for things. So I came up with, we're going to commiserate, we're going to collaborate, and then we're going to community, which is not a verb, but we can turn it into one. So so the first one I thought, just in terms of that commiserating, I mean, I think Jeff and I were talking a little bit before 5 o'clock rolled around, just what's going on? How has the response to all of this craziness impacted you and your school situation? For example, here real quick, my school, we were currently scheduled this week for spring break anyway. So it's been a really weird week to go from, Friday we had off, this whole week was supposed to be scheduled off, to tonight our board is having an emergency meeting to decide what do the next 3 weeks of e-learning look like or not. And right now it's looking like we're not going to be able to have any sense of, e-learning. We're not going to be able to require any kind of attendance or any kind of instructional activities for those kinds of things. And in fact, the state has waived any requirement to make up school days, and they're talking right now about waiving requirements for teacher to make up staff time. So they might just hit the reset button and say, after April 12th, if that's as long as things go, we'll just have the rest of school as we normally would and just kind of wrap up the year. But I know that's not the case everywhere. So I don't know who wants to chime in first, but if you would like to, you can kind of, what would it be? Take a tour of Jitsi real quick by moving your mouse around the screen, and there's a little hand raise icon in the bottom left-hand corner. That would probably prompt us to maybe call on you. But since we're a pretty small group here, you might just be able to start talking, and basic rules of human decency might let you proceed. So I don't know who wants to get going on that.
I can jump in just because I'm the polar opposite. So we've shifted to be 100% virtually and online. There's like pretty much the day the governor announced that we're shutting down all schools for 3 or 4 weeks. A couple days later now we have all of our classes online. However, it's not like a complete one-to-one shift. It's super flexible, which is actually kind of neat. So we have classes in the morning if you want to go to them, but if we know in advance you're not going to be there, it doesn't count against you. So we have like this weird, like flexible hybrid model of doing some things, but not a lot of stuff, while still maintaining some structure for the students that want the structure, which I think is actually working quite well. Not to sound like too cocky about it, but I actually think our district's doing a really good job handling it, which is not necessarily unexpected, but it's cool that it's happening. Especially when I hear what's going on in your district, Nick.
Yeah, that's been interesting. Yeah, I think that if we weren't on break, things would be different, but it's been a little stressful because the district's kind of taken that attitude that since we are on break, we should just treat it like we're not in school, and they'll kind of figure it out from there. But at the same time, all of my usual coping mechanisms are closed. So I can't go to the gym, can't go to the coffee shop, can't go anywhere else. So I just sit here and wonder and worry about what next week's going to look like. So that's been rough. And so, Skylar, I don't know, what your kind of plan has been up there at Highmark. What do you guys got going on?
Yeah, I think we're closer to you, Nick, than to Chris. That's for sure. We were supposed to start spring break next week, so we were supposed to be in school right now. And over the weekend, Friday night last week, the governor closed all schools in Wisconsin, and so they had to the district came up with a plan for students to report Monday and Tuesday in Marquette County, because there's still no cases in the county where my school is. There's plenty of cases in Dane County where I live, second most in the state after Milwaukee. But we're supposed to have kids Monday and Tuesday, and then basically they extended spring break by 3 days. So spring break officially was starting yesterday, but halfway through the day on Monday, as the situation worsened and the 10-person limit was announced and all that stuff. Well, limit in quotes. they decided to tell kids not to come in on Tuesday. So we all scrambled to like shut things down on Monday. And then teachers came in on Tuesday for about half the day, but they really kind of wanted us out of the building as quickly as possible because they're kind of nervous about having a large crowd. So we got, I'm on spring break officially right now. And we've been told not to really do any planning work over spring break and to really just use it as a break because we don't know what's happening. The plan that was in place, at least the last plan that we know of, so I guess the plan that's still in place is that the week after spring break, March 30th, will be extended learning, supplementary learning for kids, which it means that we don't have to provide special education services because it's not required regular learning. So it's like review stuff in the district. And for us, we just are providing, some online office hours where we'll be on Google Hangout stuff and able to talk to the kids. But then that was based on the theory that the governor's order had said that schools will be open no sooner than April 6th. But now that just got extended Tuesday to say like as long as the public health emergency lasts. So and we haven't heard anything since then. So we'll see. It's kind of we're in a wait and see weird position too.
Man, and I think that wait and see has been, I know in Chris's case, I've texted him many times, like, what does Ohio know that the rest of us don't? But Ohio seems to be ahead of the curve in terms of like a future awareness of where this could be. Because right now our plan is the same. Anything beyond like April 12th is a black hole. Like we don't know what that transition looks like or if we're going back. But it sounds like a lot of places are planning on there's just not going back. Like they're done.
Yeah, I mean, we were told unofficially to take home anything that we might conceivably need before the end of the school year, just in case.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I don't know. Feel free, anybody else, to chime in too. And...
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Yes, Jeff.
Talk. I'm from the Chicago suburbs, and my district is in a pretty fortunate situation. I mean, and everything's happened so fast. I mean, Wednesday morning, I thought it was business as usual. And then, by Wednesday night, the president spoke, and, Thursday morning, our board had a meeting, and things moved pretty quickly to how they changed this current week to Monday as an institute day for teachers to figure out what their e-learning scenario is going to be. So our district is an iPad district. So all the students, it's a high school only school district. So all the students have iPads. And so the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, our district is in a position where we built in emergency days, and there were no cold days like last year, no negative 50s. So we have all 4 days that we're available to be able to use. And then spring break is next week. So mostly it's just really about trying to figure out what does your new classroom look like starting on March 30th.
Okay. Like giving you guys that buffer to get to spring break so you can figure out what to do.
Exactly. And you know what? It's very helpful because I mean, there you have your initial thought. Like Friday, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And then the more and more worse the health situation gets, the more I'm rethinking everything about what it is that I'm going to be doing. And on top of that, I'm a social studies teacher, but I also am an advanced placement teacher. Mm-hmm. And so there's still some uncertainty about that. And that would just fundamentally change what it is that I'm going to be doing in that situation. Because I believe tomorrow the college board is going to announce how they're going to set up AP tests, or at least we'll get some information on AP tests. So that's another thing. It's like if AP tests are on, teachers and students throughout the country have a lot of stress in dealing with how they're going to prepare for them. If they're not, then the course can take a different direction.
Yeah, and I teach AP European history, and I'm in the same lurch as you because, yeah, if it doesn't matter right now for me if kids take them in a building or if they take them at home, I'm missing 3 weeks of instruction. So, how can you expect some kids in the country who might be missing the rest of the semester, or even the kids missing now who will be in session at the time that their test is scheduled? Yeah, I just, and I don't know what your thought is on that, Jeff, but I'm leaning towards just offer refunds and pull the plug and just say exceptional circumstances or something. It's a wild thing. It's unprecedented.
Just like anything, they're waiting to the last minute to
Yeah.
really make a decision. But if I go back on March 30th without an answer on that's going to get stressful for a lot of teachers. Obviously the students first and foremost, but then teachers running around trying to see what they can do to make their classroom better and so that the students can be prepared. And then it just becomes an equity issue because the privileged that have their own devices, that have internet access,
Yes.
are gonna be the ones that are more prepared than those who don't.
And even I think of the guidance that we've been given so far has been don't post any materials right now. And online learning, the guidance from the Department of Education has been online learning can't be a requirement. So any materials that you do post have to be voluntary anyway. So yeah, again, I think the people who are going to be able to access those materials are the ones who are maybe already have those advantages, right? If I post AP, videos, or if I post a DBQ prompt, who's going to be able to respond to it since you can't go to the library and access the public Wi-Fi, or you can't go to the McDonald's, and sit down and do that work. So yeah, if they could just announce that, my preference would be to put those things on hold. And then I can shift my class for the rest of the year to focusing on something else. But right now, trying to make up that crunch just seems a little bit seems crazy to me. So, yeah, I don't know. Commiserating. Are we still on the first C? Commiserating. Who else wants to chime in? We've got Andre and we've got Tracy. I'm calling you guys out. We've got Robert. Who else have we got in here? We've got a bunch of anonymous people, and that's cool too. Thank you for joining us. I probably said this several times, but this is the most adult interaction I've gotten. I've got my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old upstairs stomping around with my wife eating dinner. So this is cool. I want to hear, what are you doing in your context? How has this impacted your life?
This is Tracy. I can talk.
Tracy,
Hi.
how are you?
Well, I'm not on camera for a reason.
Yeah.
But two things. One thing is I work at LSU Med School, and
Okay.
tomorrow is match day, where all the fourth year med students find out where they're matched in their residency. And it's a really big deal, and it's a celebration. And, we have students from LSU Med School that have matched into the general surgery program, and we got little baskets and everything for them, and now it's canceled. So there's no celebration, and they get to walk across stage. And last year it was really awesome because what they do is they each carry a $1 bill, and they call out the fourth year students in random order, and you get your envelope to find out where you match, and you put your dollar in a basket. And when the last resident is called, he gets to keep the money. So it's because he's had to wait so long. So it's all of my point is the ceremonies and everything that for 4 years they've been working towards their graduation from med school. All of that is shelved. And you know how it is with high achievers. If y'all are with the AP students, you know how AP students are. So these kids are the former AP students who are now in med school. They've been wanting to be doctors since they were in kindergarten, and the most important day of their life where they find out where they're going to do their real crucial training and graduate from med school, all of that is canceled for them.
Right.
So that's, really disappointing. I also teach at Ball State University, and I have to say that I'm already online. Our autism and ABA, which is applied behavior analysis program, is already online, a lot of classes, but we do have in-campus classes, and I'm really impressed by the urgency and the swiftness that the president took to not only like make sure that everything was communicated to the students in a timely fashion, but on Canvas. Are you familiar with Canvas? It's, you know what Blackboard and Canvas are?
Yes, yes.
So on Canvas, every faculty member has this emergency portal on how to keep like continuity in their class and all kind of resources on there. That was like up and ready like a week ago. And Monday we're having a like forum, and everybody can log in kind of like this, and we can find out about disability services. Obviously, our department knows about that, but there are a lot of students who have disabilities that on purpose take the in-class, on campus face-to-face classes, and now they're, online, which is so difficult for some of the disabilities. So they're going to have a big forum to discuss how to make those classes more accessible. So it's kind of like an accessibility issue for some students.
Very good. Yeah,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that's something too that has been the idea of accessibility is one of the things I think that in Iowa is leading to some decisions by some districts to not have online instruction, just knowing that it's going to be more difficult to make those accommodations than it is not. So it's not having training in that is going to be really difficult for teachers to say, well, okay, I need to both train in how I can have this online software meet a general education audience, but then I also have to train in how can I have that meet these kids with a bunch of other different accessibility needs, So yeah, it is interesting to think then how that shift is going to risk further marginalizing people who do benefit from those in-person environments. And I think secondly too, we forget the impact you mentioned of like those ceremonies and stuff. And I know it's kind of a smaller thing in the scheme of things, but we had like our boys basketball team go on and win state basketball in Iowa, and that was last Friday, and we're not going to see them until April, and then they called off every other athletic event and everything else in between due to that. So there's a lot of seniors in college, high school, et cetera, who aren't March Madness, for example. People just aren't able to go out and have those cultural moments that they've been building towards perhaps for years, either in academics or in athletics or in anything else. So yeah, just some of those things that get lost in the shift. That's important to bring up, I think.
I definitely think so, because I always feel like everything is relative. I'm putting myself in my 17-year-old mind. If my graduation was canceled, if my prom was canceled, I would have been devastated.
Yes.
My hairdresser told me that there were girls sitting in the chair getting their hair done when they got text that their prom was canceled, and they had their hair done up. So I agree with you. I think that, when you get to be 50 years old and you're looking back with your kids and you're telling them how your prom was canceled or how your match day was canceled, that you'll put it in perspective. But when you're 17, when you're 25, it's all relative to your life experiences. And I think that we have to have a lot of compassion for kids who have worked really hard for their high school graduation. And now they're going to be robbed of that experience of walking across stage and jumping up and down and their parents screaming. And I mean, that's a moment in time that is like frozen and you'll never get it back.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I've really tried to just convey on Twitter and, in my messages to my Ball State University students is that I don't ever think that we should downplay that life will never be the same. I experienced Hurricane Katrina. There are restaurants that never came back. There were people who I knew died. There were people who moved away that I never saw again. I was a week before Hurricane Katrina, I was sitting with some people, my football group. I never saw my friend Brian and his wife Tracy ever again. That was 15 years ago, and I spent every weekend with them during football season. But what I always like to give the message of hope is that the new normal will feel so normal that you won't remember what this time is like. So it will become normalized, but it's a process, and people are resilient. But when you're in the moment, here I am in New Orleans and everything is destroyed. There's no electricity and it's 110 degrees. There's military on the corners, on every corner, making sure everyone's safe. Everything is destroyed. It's like this, it's like you're in like Armageddon, like in a movie, but it's your life. And it's just such a, it's such a startling change. And I think the difference is that that was like a boom over 24 hours. This is like a slow burn. And so we know what hurricanes do, but we really don't know what pandemic, what this is going to be, because the last time something like this happened, we didn't have all the technology that we have. Now we have so much more technology. So there's expectations that maybe false expectations, or maybe we're downplaying how good it can be. But I think that's the biggest difference between me going through like this amazing like metamorphosis of my city and now being like, okay, I can still drive by a store and it's, you can tell that it's closed from Katrina because they have like an X and they have a date on it and they have like numbers. And so the date is like when they went in, and the numbers is like how many dead bodies that they found in the building. And then it'll say like 2 cats. And so, you'll still drive by and that'll be a memory like, oh, 3 people and 2 cats died in that house on September 2nd when they checked it. But, it's, my life is normal. And I think that's the biggest issue that we face right now, is that we don't know how this slow burn is going to pan out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think I posted something similar on Twitter too, is like, this will be over, but we can't go back to the way things were before. Whether it's our economic system, Jeff and I were talking a little bit about that before we started up here, or educational system. I've seen so many parents on, friends that I have on Facebook too, who aren't anywhere involved in education, posting pictures of them and their kids and being like, oh, this homeschool thing is working out pretty good. And like, imagine that family going back to the way things were before. So we'll like find a new normal. Yeah, exactly. But it's not gonna be the same. It'll all be transformed by all of this. But though, yeah, like mitigated through the new technology that we have. Like I don't see any of this working in 2020 without, Zoom and Skype and Google Classroom or any of those other connectivity tools. So it's wild. Now I don't know, since we're 20 minutes in here, if we want to move to the second of the 3 C's, which is the collaborate here. So kind of moving from commiserating to collaborating. What can we learn from your response to this crisis, so that way we can all do right by our kids and our communities? So one thing that I've, been thinking about, and I commented on this on Monday when the news came out in my district, that I just wanted to get in touch with my students. So I made a quick screencast video and just sent it out to them saying, hey, this is weird, and there's no right way to react to this, and we're all going to be weird in this together. So let me know what questions or concerns you have. And honestly, within a day, I got an email from a student that later that afternoon that just said, Dear Covington, here's some things. Thanks for checking in. It may have been an all students message, but it still means a lot. So, there are still kids, even now that I'm on spring break, who just need that check-in to know, someone's thinking about them. So content has got to take a second stage to all this stuff. But what do we think? How do you want to chime in on this from your response to that crisis? What can we model to bring back to our own context?
Nick, I think you're absolutely right. My thought initially is, okay, what am I going to do in my class? But then the reality is it's about your relationship with your students. And we made it to March, so you've got these really strong relationships that you've built with the students. And so it's not like you can show up on the internet in a couple weeks and say, okay, now you need to do this. And that just seems too much of a transactional relationship. So like I just realized it's like, you know what, I need to talk to the students every day. And I'm fortunate my district we use Schoology. It seems very, the students seem very comfortable with it. So immediately first day I'm updating. And really there's two things I think I'm updating that's helpful. And that is, again, I'm a social studies teacher. So it's talking about, things we learned in economics that are like today, stimulus. I mean, we're all Keynesians now. So that becomes something to talk about. And then, obviously monetary policy in the banking system. What's the banking do? So we spent all semester talking about hypothetical situations, and I'm talking about 2008, and the kids are like, I was 7. So what does that matter to me? And now it's happening to them in real time. So the one thing is like, can you find if you're a science teacher, find something in the content of the news that's related to your subject. And then secondly, make it more personal. And so that's why I'm taking pictures of my kids and me playing memory, and making sure that they know it's me. I tell stupid dad jokes, and I'm still going to do that. And just each day send them. And just today I got an email from a student on he had another issue that he was trying to wrap up from a couple of weeks ago, and last thing he said was, thank you for sending those messages, because it gives me a sense of direction and still learning and still interacting with our group.
Right on. And I think I'll call on Dan. How can I put Dan at the front there? There we go.
Sorry, I'm on my phone. I'm cool. I just wanted to comment on what was a couple things there. One was, I agree with the last point that since this all started, my curriculum feels really small and irrelevant, and I'm wondering how to how to incorporate everything that's going on. I'm also a social studies teacher, so I feel fortunate that bringing in a lot of the issues, globalization and human interaction is easy. But also on the last point you brought up, Nick, about being able to check in with your kids and having that relationship already. Yeah, I agree that's really important. What happens if we're still in this mode come next school year and you don't have the opportunity to start the year with your kids face to face, and it's like, okay, we're going to start the year online, so let's get to it. And you don't have that relationship. You're just setting up Google Classrooms and Zoom meets with kids you've never really talked to that much. That could be if we end up going there. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I think to your last point there, Dan, I think there are some interesting people and some resources who work in that digital pedagogy realm who have done a really great job with that. I know Laura Gibbs is someone I follow on Twitter who I trust to kind of fill that in too, because there are people who do this work exclusively online and manage to still have relationships with kids and not, to Jeff's point, have it default into that transactional kind of thing. I think maybe it's a little bit easier to default to transactional learning in a digital environment, but I don't think it has to be like that. So I think if that's a case, then we do just need to elevate our digital pedagogy knowledge a little bit and get a little bit more training with that. I know that would be a huge loss to me as someone who values those relationships a lot and thinks that that's a really important part of learning. I couldn't imagine putting something else on a pedestal and putting kind of students behind. I don't think that has to go away because the medium of exchange of learning changes. It's just the tools that you might use to accomplish those goals is different. But yeah, I think it is interesting, right? That the social studies mindset. I'm looking around at the chat board. I'm not sure where everyone sits in that, but it is just so much easier to fit. I teach econ, I teach European history, taught world history, U.S. history. It's so easy to find those connections. And I wonder, for some people too, Chris, I don't know if you could talk about like you've been talking with your kids about isolation and transitioning your projects to dealing with that. Maybe that helps kind of bridge the gap to the last question. How are we going to balance that connectivity and the need, if we're going to flatten the curve, flatten the curve. If we're going to flatten the curve, that need for social isolation, how are we going to transition that into classrooms too?
Yeah, so I think I'm echoing what Dan and Jeff have said as well as you, Nick, which is my class. So we are mostly doing digital class. The class is kind of serving as a relational tool. So the content is really just catering to students connecting with each other and talking with each other. So I teach digital design. We dropped everything that we were doing and just transitioned it to doing a study on isolation. So students doing things like taking pictures of what it means to be isolated, or just talking to each other about, what's it like? What are you doing? What are some things you could do? Are you getting bored? That kind of stuff. And for me, that it's beyond just like building relationships for fun. I mean, the area in which I teach recently, like last month, had the only grocery store in the entire neighborhood shut down. It's a food desert. It's a pretty rough area too. And you could imagine it's one thing to lose the grocery store, but now you have all this crazy stuff going on with hoarding and people not being able to get their groceries. There's no access to like a Whole Foods or anything to come deliver you your groceries. So having that connection every day among students is also a safety issue, beyond just like, oh, hey, it's nice seeing you, to make sure that students have the connections that they need. We have delivered hotspots to students, which is pretty cool. So we can actually stay in touch with them. But to me, the goal of the class is more so just to stay in touch than it is to learn necessarily any content, because they're going to learn what it means to be isolated by being isolated. They don't need me necessarily. I'm just there as like a tool to talk about it. So it's been a very interesting time to do, in a very morbid way, true experiential learning. I mean, this is about as experiential as it can is. You live through the crisis, you'll know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that well? But that's what I think is so interesting about this. And I think I made a snarky comment on a Twitter thread that I posted earlier about like how is a certain part of the education crowd on Twitter responding to this, right? People who maybe think of this learning more as a cognitive event. It's interesting to see how they're bending their own pedagogy to say, oh, maybe we should focus on the common experiences of students and start with them and addressing their anxieties and kind of bending the curriculum to meet them where they're at in this. But like what Chris, with exactly what you said, like that's been the core of the work all along. So your shift wasn't a shift from, oh crap, I have to completely change what I'm doing. You just say, we're going to recenter that same work, but on a new aspect of our experience that we're sharing together to help us understand it. So like that's, again, maybe the social studies lens has always been, let's bring a little bit of that, of those current events in there and just see how does the study of the humanities, or how can we use the economics, the language of economics to explain our current reality? Well, we can use art and design to do that same thing too, to help us understand our connections to each other and our interactions with our community in these times of crisis. So I think our role in this is still just as much about helping students find purpose. That if their purpose beforehand was to get a 5 on the AP test, and now that's up in the air, how do we shift that into say, no, there's still cool, meaningful learning that we can all do together because we're still here and we can still accomplish something cool in our community. So yeah, that's an interesting lens to keep in mind. I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts too about that. How can we, help build that community and those community connections in this time where we can't all be in a room together? I'll build in some wait time.
So this is Skylar. My bandwidth is really crappy right now, so I turned off video. But on Monday, as part of the prep for being gone, we asked students to brainstorm ideas for how to support each other, emotionally and academically during however long the closure was going to last. And we actually had a couple of kids that were not at school that had that called in on Google Hangouts for that discussion, which was pretty cool. And long story short, they did a couple of things. One thing is that they have a Google Hangouts group that they created that the teachers are also on, where they've been sharing Instagram handles and phone numbers and other contact information for Snapchat names and stuff, to keep in touch if they didn't already have that stuff. And then the other idea that really concrete idea that they had was to implement those office hours that I mentioned earlier, that we scheduled every day of the, our schedule is really uncertain right now, but the 1 week that we know about, we scheduled office hours from 12 to 4, where my co-teacher Amanda or I will be available and online on Google Hangouts, and whatever students come will come, and we'll, whatever, if they need emotional support, we'll do that. If they need, if they just want to talk, we'll do that. If they actually have questions about a project or math or whatever, we'll do that. And the time for that was was what they came up with as a group, based around work schedules / sleep schedules, which definitely tells you something about the normal school days feasibility for teenagers.
I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah, and I think too, are we rushing? I've seen so many people post either schedules for their own kids or schedules that their districts have come up with, and I don't know if yours is like this, Skylar or Chris, but I've seen some that have had like a bell schedule for kids to move through, where they go through different periods of the day, and take attendance for those things. But I think, yeah, you're exactly right. Like, just having those flexible open hours is just a cool space to provide that lets kids meet those other needs too. I mean, I'm stressed out and I'm taking naps and I'm sleeping more than I have, and I don't have anything to do during the day. So I can't imagine how kids, are reacting to that change of pace too. So that's a wild thing.
I can speak to that for a bit, because
Yeah.
we do have a bell schedule, and what's interesting about it is, so first off, it's optional. So if you message beforehand, say, hey, I'm not going to be there, you could pretty much say anything and it's not going to matter. You don't have to be there. It's really just like, so we know that's what's going on. And I'm pretty much one of like the least traditional teachers probably in the building. And I actually kind of like it.
Okay.
Which I didn't think I would. I thought it would be like really silly. We only do it in the morning. It's only from like basically 9 to noon. But it's actually adding some structure that I think the kids want. Because it's flexible, I still only have maybe 3 or 4 students that say anything, that say that they don't want to be there. When they come, we do like a face-to-face style class, because our district's 1-to-1, and they seem to get a huge kick out of it. Like, we just do like we talk as if we were in class and do funny things and talk about how their days are going and like connect virtually. I think a lot of the kids are just bored out of their minds. So ironically, class has become a lot more interesting as a result of us going online. And the classes are also a lot shorter, which is nice. They start later, they're shorter, and they're more targeted. But the students seem to like seeing each other, because I think a lot of our students, they're kind of like, they're not necessarily friends in quote unquote real life. They're like school friends. So seeing all of their classmates in the class environment, even though like, yes, it's a bell schedule, is adding that just like sense of normalcy, which is something I never thought I would say. I would have assumed I would have been in the camp of just saying like, hey, let's just cut completely off from school. Let's just go do stuff with our families. But it's been working out fairly well, with the key point being that we have that flexibility that you don't have to be there, because we have many students that can't. They're taking care of people, etc.
Yeah. That's such a great perspective too, just because I would think the same thing. Like, sticking to those rigid schedules might just be something that doesn't translate well into like the offline or the online setting, sorry, the out of classroom setting. So that's a good perspective. How do I call on Dan again? Do I click on you, Dan? How do I get you going?
Just say it and I come on, I guess.
Oh, okay. And go.
Like we built a lot of structure, but we also gave them a lot of like flexibility as well. But we sent out some suggested schedules to our kids. Here's some ways you could organize your day. We have one called the Rooster for kids that like to get up early, and one called the Owl for kids that like to sleep in. And we have this whole theme, the launch pad. It's like it's got like space oriented thing, and And frankly, the kids are a bit bored, and I think they're gonna dig, or they're digging the just having that the classes back. And like the last gentleman said, the classes aren't as long. There's not as much work really, because we still want them to we want to prioritize their mental health. So we say things like, learn to cook something, or learn to do something that you had never done before. And yeah, but there's still some structure built in, because they do want that. They're right now.
Oh no, we lost Dan, and he was making such a good point. I think we can only assume, I guess, but man, I think it's probably, when kids looked at that, they were like, oh God, if I'm a high school student, I'm thinking, God, I'm gonna play so much video games. Like, I'm gonna play my guitar, I'm gonna do all that stuff. And then you do that the first 3 days and you go, oh my God, I still have 4 weeks left, and I can't go to work, I can't go to the gym, I can't hang out with my friends, I can't go to the mall. And so then you're looking at that little schedule that says, oh, this is the night owl thing. I'm used to being up late. I might as well do X, Y, or Z. I can see that having like a really cool appeal.
Yeah.
I dig that a lot.
To build off of that too, something that we've been having a lot of fun with is like Jackbox games, those like party games that you typically play with. Like,
how did that go? You said you were going to play.
It's gone really well. The kids really. I just been posting like every so many days, like, hey, come play Jackbox games with our conference software, and the kids have been loving that. As like a sense of community thing to do.
It's like a team building.
Our esports team is hosting a online Smash tournament. Any middle school or high schoolers that are interested, it's all online, so you can come. You can check my Twitter handle. I can put it up. And also just like any kind of games activities. We even posted like the Harvard, like open Harvard edX courses. We had a lot of students that are interested in these like just really random things that you can learn about. Like there's like a justice course, or even like computer science, like these things that you would not think. I think that if you have a negative viewpoint of students, you might go like, no kid's going to want to do computer science when they have the day off. But I think many would be very surprised. As you were just saying, after day 3, it's like, I will do anything as something to potentially entertain me. Because the kids have literally said that. They've said that, like, I am bored out of my mind, especially those that have, no offense to siblings or family members, but many of them are annoyed by their siblings or family members. They need to find a spot where they can just like dig into like their own isolation to get away from them. And that's been an interesting side note. I see that Dan's back.
Is everything working on your end, Dan? You want to finish talking about roosters and night owls?
Even though when I got cut off, I was just talking to no one for a while there.
Oh, yeah, you dropped shortly after you made that comment about the different schedules and kids kind of being grateful for it. I didn't know what else you wanted to add to it.
But actually, exactly what. Sorry, the last gentleman, is it Chris? Is that your name? Awesome. Same thing. I mean, the kids were just going crazy. They were so bored. I was texting with my advisory group, and they were like, when are we going to have something to do? And so, yeah, I think a lot of us, we assumed that when we went to online learning, there'd be a lot of resistance and a lot of like, oh, really? School while I'm sitting at home? And actually, the opposite. They're like, thank God school's back.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting too. Like, I think school's back for what? Like, school's back as because it gives me the flexibility to stretch myself, my own abilities. Is it connecting with that group? Like, that's the part that I'm really curious about. And that's, I guess, the shift in my thinking over the last hour in that has been, like, what's the purpose of this online school for? Is it a vehicle for content? Like, is it to assess and quiz and do all the things that you would do in a traditional classroom? Or has the purpose of it like shifted? Because it sounds like it has shifted in Chris's classroom. It sounds like it shifted for Tracy and Jeff. And Dan, have you noticed that shift too? Like, the purpose of the learning is different. It gives kids purpose, where maybe their purpose was school before. What replaces that?
The social is a big part of it for sure. They want to talk to their friends, which they could do anyway at home, but in a more formal setting, they like Google Meet. They like talking to their teachers. Maybe they wouldn't have admitted it before this, but no, most of them actually did, but they, they like talking to us. I don't know, the assessment part. I don't really. I think the jury's still out on that one. But I think less content with as much meaning as possible, and then the social aspect. I think that's what they're digging. They want to do that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And I wonder too how in as we kind of think ahead and we go to like unring the bell a little bit, like what parts as we transition back into quote unquote regular school are we going to, what parts are we going to miss about the online learning environment, and what parts are we going to need to look ahead and change? Just as we talked about at the beginning of this hour, everything is going to be different. The economic system is going to be different. I don't know, everything about geopolitics is going to be different than it was beforehand. How can school survive this and be the same? So Tracy, do you want to chime in on that comment, or say whatever you want to say? I've talked too much anyway. You just have to unmute yourself. How do I do that? Okay.
Okay, I did that. No, it really occurred to me during the conversation when everyone was talking is maybe we just need to do hybrid classes, like from here on out, like everything just morph, because I don't think that like building the online community and then pulling it apart is healthy. I think that that's a very unhealthy. There are a lot of introverts that have probably come out of their shell online and felt more safe and comfortable. And my gut feeling is that schools should morph into more of a hybrid learning. One of the schools that we have here that I know I've shared with Skylar and Nick and Chris, our JCFA, which is our alternative high school. And they go to class from 9 to 1, and then they work the rest of the day. And some of them bank hours, and they'll go to class like 8 to 12, and then they work. And there's a hybrid component that they could do at home to get ahead, and they just have to take their tests and quizzes in school. And so I'm seeing kind of, somebody was talking about the flexible schedules. I see a future where there's like flexible schedules in schools, and maybe there's like, a 10-hour period where it could be more flexible, and that could help with childcare, and it can also help keep this community that we're building. That's kind of where my mind has been. I'm kind of thinking about just building on what we have instead of, it seems like every political election, it's like 4 years, and then the next one comes in and they try to undo what the next one did. And, and instead of like always trying to like tear down and build something better, it's like, let's just keep building forward.
Absolutely. And I don't know, fellow Jitzer, I'm not sure who you are, but you had your hand raised for that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then let us know what.
Hi, this is Keisha. I'm from Hawaii.
Good to have you.
We face a lot of different challenges here, and I must be in the wrong group because I'm a middle school teacher, and you guys are talking high school, and the capacity of your children is going to be a lot different than mine. So we are a one school district state. So even though our schools span several islands and several different communities and several different eco-socioeconomic status, we are one school district. So when decisions are being made, they're being made for everyone at the same time. And that obviously adds a level of complexity. So our status is we went on to spring break on Friday, and there was no announcement. There was no prior indication. We had a press conference from our governor on Sunday at 1:30 saying students, instead of coming back on the 23rd of March, would return on the 30th of March. And then within 48 hours, that was altered to April 7th. So we've had no preparation. We've had no indication. We have been given no marching orders on how to proceed at all. I work at a Title I school. I'm in the middle of 7 low-income housing communities. I can tell you right now, 40% of my kids will not have access to the internet or to devices. So for me, like, I hear this, what you're saying, like, let's build these awesome communities and let's not tear them apart. But for me, the reality is there's not going to be a one size fits all at all. Like, we might have to do packets. We might have to offer online for kids who can do online, but we're going to have a number of kids who cannot. We also have one of the largest EL populations in the whole state of Hawaii. We have cultural things that are a lot different here than the mainland. So, we have a lot of multi-generational homes. We have, like middle school children whose job will be to look after the younger children. We have parents who are working 3 jobs because they work in tourism and, like the lower income job. So for us, I mean, we haven't even started this. That's why I'm so interested to hear that what you guys are already doing, what's in place, and what direction you've been given, because we have been given 0 so far, and it's all just evolving. But our challenges are going to be a lot different. And I don't think it's going to be as quick as like teaching our veteran teachers how to do Google Classroom and Zoom. It's going to be, the 30 or 40% of the kids who just cannot even get access. Do we create packets? Are we just covering power standards? Like, how can we ethically pass them on to the next grade and give them the best opportunity? So we do start our school year early. We start August 1st. We end at the end of May. So we were able to complete our entire 3rd quarter before spring break. So, I mean, I don't know where we're going to stand with national testing. I don't know where we're going to stand with the AP and the SAT exams and all these other things. But yeah, so I mean, I've enjoyed hearing everybody's input. I just wanted to speak up for my represent the 50th state. It's a very different challenge here. And notably, by the Friday when we were ending our school and nobody else had announced, all the private schools and the universities had already announced that they were going to discontinue in-face learning. So, all the schools who often have one-to-one or have that accessibility, right, they've already made that, and they already had a plan in place where all the public school people were just sent home, and it's like, okay, we have 14,000 teachers and we're not going to give you any direction, and go enjoy your spring break. And then I'm literally getting news from news press conferences with the governor. I'm not getting communications from my principal or from my district supervisor. We're just really on the fly here. So that's why, again, I appreciate the time and the space to hear from others. And I love all the teachers just putting free resources out there on Twitter. It's just awesome how people are standing together. But there's going to be so many varied ways of dealing with this situation. And maybe in some districts they're a little bit more cohesive. In my district, it's hard to do that because of just the variety of people and places and situations across our whole school district, which again is across 5 or 6 islands and all kinds of other interesting challenges. So yeah.
Sounds like a perfect storm. Tracy, go ahead. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I have a lot of compassion. I actually worked in a middle high school, so I do know that middle schoolers are very different. We had middle and high school in different buildings. But what I want to say is, I think I was more referring to when we were talking about the communities that were already built rather than trying to build communities. I'm thinking about having compassion for the kids that have finally found their voice in the community, and now we're going to take that from them. And then they're going to be back in the classroom. There's a certain energy that comes of freedom, even right now, with us in this platform. It'd be different if we were face to face. And I'm not saying we wouldn't have the same conversation, but there's something, different about being, a virtual presence. So the other thing I wanted to say is that, our large district, our superintendent really didn't have a plan. He really isn't a visionary, and he was waiting for other people's plan. He did go to packets where they are trying to have locations where parents can pick up packets of work, or they could do the bus drivers could deliver food and packets. And then that goes to the whole point of worksheets and how effective. But at some point when you're in a crisis, you just have to act and you have to do things. And I'm really hoping that we learn from this, and that everybody kind of comes together and says, okay, now we need to really plan for the next time this happens. And we can't say the next time isn't going to happen, because we never thought this was going to happen. I never thought Katrina was going to happen. When I was in my 20s, we had hurricane parties. And, you know, we all went to people's houses while we were waiting for the hurricane, and it never came. So I have a lot of compassion for the situation you're in, because I feel like you don't have a lot of leadership. And I think that is the key word. I work in a situation right now where I feel like this office staff, not the doctors, because that's totally different, but I have a lack of leadership in my office, and I have been a leader. And so I had to have a very honest conversation about what leaders do. The biggest thing that leaders do is they lead in the time of crisis. They're the calm, they're the person that everyone looks to. And it's not just the students, because I have adult students. I have students that are older than me that have sent me private messages. All of your ongoing support and understanding and compassion is really getting me through this. So I just have a lot of compassion for what you're going through, because I feel like it's twofold. You're in a situation where you have a lot of cultural differences, you have a lot of like poverty, and then you have a lack of leadership. So you're like in the perfect storm of just feeling, you know, very helpless. But I love how you're looking at the silver lining as the Twitter community, and that you're seeing that we're all here for you. And I have compiled like tons of resources. I know Chris, Nick, I mean, everybody has compiled resources. So, I mean, we're here for you, whatever you need, because I can't say you're ever going to get leadership if you don't have it now. And we're at this point.
So,
Thank you for that.
So I don't know, Terry, you've had your hand up over there. So you want to go ahead and let us know what's on your mind? Oh no, did we lose Terry? Or maybe we can unmute Terry. I don't know. We'll give Terry a moment here. Yes, there you are. Great.
I have headphones in. Let me try the headphones again. I don't know if there's a speaker on them. Hold on. Let me try again.
Yeah, everything sounds fine on my end.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. I am not in a school district right now. I'm not in a classroom. I was in a classroom for 20-something years. And then I was a personalized learning coach for several years. And I've now gone out on my own. But I'm very much an advocate for personalized learning. And I'm hearing you talking about flipping basically from the content to what's actually going on, the context, and then making the disciplines fit into the context, into the content that we teach, right? And I'm so glad to hear from, I'm not sure, the woman from Hawaii, but it's good to be able to hear, from your perspective, because, we are very well connected. I'm in Florida. We've got everything, we've got delivery service and, everything that we need here. So to hear from you and the struggle that you're facing is I'm sorry that you're going through that. And I'm always looking for opportunities for children to have problem solving. And I'm thinking about many of you are high school students, teachers. And what if you connect, your high school students to solve a real world problem? And that is these students that are not connected there, and it gives them an opportunity to study the culture that you're talking about, where there's these multi-generational families living together. It's a great opportunity for them to learn real world reasons to learn about these people, and then to do some creative problem solving on how, the adults are doing the creative problem solving. And we have kids who are sitting here and they want to make a difference. And I'm the person sitting here too, saying, okay, I'm not in a school. What can I do? And the big kid in me is coming out right now. But how can we connect the students that do have internet access in Hawaii with students who have access somewhere else, and how can they learn from with each other, and talk about, connecting, and really, finding out how they can make the difference, and not learning because I deserve to learn, but learning because other people need me to learn so that I can make a difference and contribute something back.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Skylar, do you want to maybe have the last comment on here, and then we can start to wrap things up, unless other people want to speak as well?
Sure. I was just gonna echo what Terry was saying about connecting students with internet access with those without. Where that was something else that our students came up with, because we have a few. We only have 30 students, and but we're in a rural district, and a handful of them don't have reliable internet access other than their phones, and their phones aren't super reliable either. And we did a few of them did arrange to like meet at various times, assuming that they're able to, given the whatever the lockdown or quarantine procedures end up being. But I think that relying on those like community supports that are already there is really important to remember too.
Absolutely. And I think so. What I think, if there's a positive lining that comes out of any of this, I mean, obviously, anytime that there's going to be kids left stuck in the gap between, online learning and the unavoidableness of school closures, I think is going to be a problem that we're going to have to overcome. But if the silver lining of this, if anything good comes out of it, is knowing that it's going to take a big hybrid approach to meet all those kids. And maybe that's kind of the thinking that was needed all along. And maybe if the end result of this is that more kids' needs are met, because we realize that we can't just be one-to-one, or we can't just be physical materials. Maybe there exists some alternate schedules for kids to be in a physical space if they need it, or an online space where they need it, or flex some time so that way they can work a job or be the caretaker for their family. I think just the flexibility to come out of this might be, a silver lining. Maybe not a month from now, maybe not 6 months from now, but maybe as we're planning for what if this happens again? What if this reoccurs next winter? What kinds of plans are we going to have in place to make sure, that kids' needs are met, whether it's food or security or safety, and not just content or passing the test, or, what AP or standardized or otherwise. How are we just going to keep kids and communities connected and growing? So maybe with that, I'll let Tracy have the last word, and then we can all get around to our families and solving the world's problems together here. What do you think, Tracy?
Well, I think you made an excellent point, and I just want to tell you that 4 months before Hurricane Katrina, my friend came home and said that we have no plan in place if we have a hurricane. And I just met with all these people and told a bunch of people, and everybody wrote it off. And then we know it happened. Now that we're in this position and we've had this conversation, and we're seeing the importance of like hybrid learning and maybe flexible schedules, and all the things that we've discussed, building communities and having resources for kids without resources, I think we owe it to ourselves, our students, our community, and the world to be advocating for that. So not to be silent when all this is over, that we are mindful that this is our responsibility to now advocate for this, and not forget that we're in this position. Because I can tell you, 15 years after Katrina, a lot of people here are starting to take things for granted again. And I think this is probably bringing up a lot for people, but I think it's our responsibility to keep these conversations going when we go back to the new normal, and really plan for this.
I think that might just be a perfect ending note, just to think, write about these experiences, or bottle them up and use that energy to transform something later on for kids. Elect people who are going to do right at the school board level, right? Make politicians accountable to these issues. Make teachers organizations accountable to these issues. Make everything around this more accountable to kids and more accountable to better outcomes for everybody. So thanks for joining in the 3 C's tonight. Be sure to, you can follow me at Covington AHS and obviously at HumRes Pro for the Human Restoration Project. If you don't follow us already, I don't know how you found this link, but we'll stay in touch. I think we'll probably do a lot of talking in the next few weeks, but if you have questions, reach out. If we don't have each other, it's gonna be a long time. So just thanks all for being here tonight, and I hope you all have a good rest of the week. So until we meet again, have a good night, everyone.